invite you all to rise. Dying, Christ destroyed our death. Rising, Christ restored our life. As in baptism Mary put on Christ, so in Christ may Mary be clothed with glory. You may be seated. Jesus said, I am the resurrection and I am the life. Those who believe in me, even though they die, yet shall they live. And whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. I died, and behold, I am alive forevermore. I hold the keys of hell and death. Because I live, you also shall live. I'd like to welcome you here this morning. Thank you for coming to join us in mourning and celebrating the life of our mother, my dad's wife, Mary Matthias. It's an honor to have you, to see so many faces that have been a part of my mom's life over decades. And thank you for being part of this. I want to invite you to turn in your bulletins now to the responsive reading. O God, who gave us birth, you are always more ready to hear than we are to pray.
Lord, hear our prayer.
You know our needs before we ask, and our ignorance in asking.
Lord, hear our prayer.
Show us now your grace, that as we face the mystery of death, we may see the light of eternity.
Lord, have mercy.
Speak to us once more your redeeming message of life, death, and resurrection.
Lord, have mercy.
And when our days here are ended, enable us to die as those who go forth to live, so that living or dying, our life may be in Jesus Christ, our risen Lord.
Lord, give us hope. Lord, give us life. Amen.
We'll be singing out of the red hymnal, if you can find one of those. And if you're able, please stand and we'll sing Blessed Assurance, number 369.
not let your hearts be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house there are many dwellings. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and will take you to myself, so that where I am, there you may be also. And you know the way to the place where I am going. I will not leave you orphaned. I am coming to you. In a little while, the world will no longer see me, but you will see me. Because I live, you also will live. I have said these things to you while I am still with you. But the Advocate, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, will teach you everything and remind you of all that I have said to you. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not let them be afraid.
Now let's join together in It Is Well With My Soul, 377.
Amen.
Good morning. I'm Vijayendran, the husband of Ravi, who is Lionel's cousin. Their mothers were sisters. Ravi and I came here from Singapore because we wanted so much to honor Marian. We are here representatives of the vast Singapore-Malaysia branch of Marian's family. Yes, I said Marian's family. I see there are a few tires here, 2 or 3, and some Unken hoses. My personal connection with the Unken hoses is as long as mine with the Matthias. Grant and Isabel Unkel were present when I married Ravi in Singapore on 7th December 1974. I formed a good impression of them that day. Lionel, who was master of ceremonies at the wedding banquet, came to me and told me I should thank all the guests for coming for the wedding despite the heavy downpour. Marian said to him, "Don't be silly, Vijayendran knows what to do." I don't know whether she meant in my speech or my after-dinner activity. But I thought then, this lady I like. And thus I fell under the spell Marian had cast on the entire vast Muttiah Ayyadurai clan. When Lionel first brought Marian to the family home at Jalan S16, Jalan Connolly, Ipoh, in late 1959, there was such a to-do. Carol, the oldest of the post-war cousins, recalls Mary Auntie and Grace Auntie preparing the front room. What color bedsheet? Which design curtain? Is it appropriate to have the same flowers in the bedroom as were placed in the living room? Carol further recalls Glory and she in light green dresses. Carol is a detailed person. Throwing flower petals as the couple climbed the front stairs to the sofa, which had been draped with a heavy kambalan. And of course, there was Grandpapa, Amachi, Mother Esther, 6 aunts, an uncle, and several pre-war cousins and post-war cousins. It must have been bewildering to the lady from the prairie. But Marian was stoic, as she always was with the Muttiah Ayyadurai clan. She had to be. She took pains to win hearts. She learned a few words of Tamil. Pavalam recalls Amachi, Lionel's formidable grandmother, making ku, a Jaffna Tamil broth of seafood and flour from the palmyra tree, garnished with spices and chili, lots of chili. And Marian liked it, or pretended to. She used her fingers, as Tamils do, and asked for a second helping. She knew the way to the heart of a grandma-in-law was through her own stomach. And she learned to dress a sari, 6 yards of cloth, and carried it well. That was the ultimate commitment to Jaffna Tamil culture. Maniam, Lionel's brother-in-law, and now the family patriarch, writes, "The family in Malaysia remember the graciousness of Marian, who, coming from quite a different cultural situation, quickly adapted to the new cultural, linguistic, church and family environment. The family responded with love and affection." Bessie writes, "I would say Marian Akka glowed God's love to all of us. I'm so glad to have known her, a God-fearing lady, a kind lady who was my cousin," she said. I think a revealing indication of Marian's love for the Mutaya Aidura clan is that the family tree she painstakingly constructed. Marian and Lionel later served as missionaries in Sumatra, Indonesia, and in Sarawak, Malaysia. Marian worked with so much love and understanding that these people, both in Medan and in Cebu, remember her so many decades later. My own sister, with a choir, visited the church in Medan at Christmas 2017 and heard the church say a very fervent prayer for Marian when she was ill. Radhi and I feel so blessed from knowing Marian through their regular visits to Singapore and ours to Oregon. First, there was a sense of wonder. I recall seeing her sitting on the patio of our home, watching the monsoonal rain, or watching the sunbursts in better weather. She appreciated every artwork we had in our home, asking the story behind each piece. And she loved every cuisine. When they visited, we ate Malay, Vietnamese, Thai, Cantonese, Hokkien, Sichuan, every kind of food. She had many friends in Singapore who scrambled to host Lionel and Marian for meals at each visit. By the way, Lionel, Emeritus Bishop Ho Chi Sing asked them to say how much Marian meant to them. Radhi and I were privileged to learn from Marian and Lionel, Marian and Lionel, a way of loving their family. They had a roster to systematically pray for each child, child-in-law, grandchild, and great-grandchild. We learned how to love our own children and grandchildren, even when we can't do anything for them physically. We will never forget our visit in May 2017. We will always remember, we will always have this image of Marian playing the piano. Great is thy faithfulness. This will linger in our minds forever. I was going to close this tribute by saying how much Radhi and I will miss Marian. But after the past 4 days, I cannot say that. For Radhi and I are seeing Marian in the graciousness of Laureen, Laura, Robert, Richard, Brian, Jeff, Lisa, Beth, and in each grandchild and great-grandchild. Palmer running barefoot, looking at each flower, saying, "I'm a country girl," is Marian. All of you are as committed as Marian was to the love Jesus taught us. Thank you.
Well, it is such a privilege to be able to honor our mom today, to celebrate a life well lived. You'll be hearing from the four of us Mathia children. I get the privilege of being first since I'm the oldest by 10 minutes. Now, we chose not to share with each other what we'd be sharing today, so my guess is that you'll hear some themes throughout, and we thank you for your grace ahead of time as you may hear similar remembrances and stories this morning. Well, I've spent time thinking back to my earliest memories of Mom. I just wanted to think, what's my first memory of her? And unfortunately, the two that I first came up with were around negative circumstances. One was about being forced to eat vegetables at the kitchen table. A scenario we laughed at years later when I finally did learn to eat my vegetables after I left home and was in college. But the other one was when we were living in Hope, and I think I was about 5 years old, and Laura and I had been playing tag around the house. And I looked back to see where she was. She was chasing me, and I ran right into the corner of a wall. Ended up in the ER with my mom sitting by my side, and several stitches later have a scar on my forehead to show for that. So I put those negative situations aside. I went to my memory bank. And the next memory I came up with landed on one when we were living in Indonesia. I think I was probably 6 or 7 and standing outside at the swing set. And I don't remember if I was by myself or siblings were with me. But I remember Mom kind of crouched down next to me, and she took off her clip-on earrings that were gold in the shape of a flower with petals around in gold of her flower-shaped earrings, and she put them in her hand. And I remember her saying, "My earrings are like the world, and God has the world in his hands." And she put the top hand over that, and she said, "And we're safe in his hands." And I think it's a memory now, 50-some years later, that I still remember. Mom could be described as wise, patient, hardworking, practical, musical, frugal, selfless, thoughtful, courageous, and faithful. She was a servant who put faith into action. I have a distinct memory in high school of being in a mall, shopping mall, and I think we might have been living my freshman year here in North Dakota where this memory took place, this incident took place. We were in a mall shopping, and I remember all of a sudden there was a lot of commotion on the escalator. And as we looked, there was an elderly woman falling down the escalator. And it was like, I remember this in slow motion because I think we all stood still, and we kind of looked around, everybody stood still. But Mom ran to the escalator to help the woman off of it. Fast forward several years, and I was leaving church, and I was heading home at the end of the day, and I came across an accident that had just happened. And a mother and her young child who was strapped in were on the side of the road in a van. They were okay, but they had been hit by a truck. The police hadn't arrived yet, and I remember thinking, oh, what time is it? Do I need to get home? But I stopped to help, to check on the woman and her child. I took them home, about a 30-minute drive, and I'd like to say it was out of the goodness of my heart, but it was really because it's what Mom would have done. Mom was patient. I have memories of her taking my sister and me shopping our senior year of high school. I remember spending 5 hours shopping one day for jeans for the two of us that fit perfectly, only to come back with nothing in hand. I remember another time that same year she drove us 3 hours to be able to go see a band that had come, a musical group come to sing from Taylor University, only to get lost. Mom driving ever so patiently, still intent on getting to this concert, only to arrive after the concert was over. She never complained about that outing. They so kindly, the band pulled out their instruments and played a couple songs for us. She was patient, teaching Laura and me to sew at an early age, something that I've always been grateful for, and I observed her often pulling out stitches from incorrect seams she sewed, oh so patiently. Mom was thoughtful. While there wasn't a lot of money for gifts, gifts did convey love. She was thoughtful in her gift giving, making a photo album one year of our family ancestry. Maybe Jenny might have referred to that in the family history, but it brought me to tears as I saw this book that she worked so hard on, and I opened it Christmas morning. She made a fabric-covered wedding album that I have by my bed today. She made a shadow box for each of us kids with multiple significant items from our stays in various parts of the world. She had a milk can painted for each of us with an image from the farm, and a specific one for my husband and I that included a picture of the two of us just after we were married in the little barn door. That was an image as well on the can. She made a copycat of one of the banners from Christmas, our nativity scene, that was in our house, no matter where we lived. That nativity scene, the banner nativity scene in felt was on that banner. She made one for each of us so that we could have it in our own homes. Mom was practical and frugal. She found a way to reuse or use just about everything. Of course, Ziploc bags were washed and reused. During missionary days, wrapping paper was scarce, and so was saved and reused, sometimes for other gifts or to line floors. Growing up on a mission field, I didn't know that all food wasn't made from scratch. Pennies were saved by making everything at home, from cakes to mac and cheese. I was enlightened when we returned to the U.S. to find that these things came in boxes. Mom loved music. From an early age, I remember her at the piano, and I'm grateful that she supported piano lessons for us kids. I learned from her the language of music that speaks across all cultures, and how it touches a part of the soul that nothing else can. One of my favorite memories was a visit to Oregon a couple years before Mom died, as I was visiting Mom and Dad. And she and I were sitting at the piano playing a piano duet. Only toward the end, we got all out of sync. Mom made some comment, I don't remember what she said, but we were both laughing. I continued playing, I finished the song. She kept playing her part, so I finished my part again. And she continued until I finally kept playing that final chord, and we were roaring with laughter, only to find out that Rick had come in and videotaped the whole thing. What a treasure it is to look back on that video today and smile. Mom was a woman of deep faith, and it was the bedrock of who she was. It was her understanding of who she was as a daughter of God that defined her above all else. She faithfully modeled morning devotions and prayer. She taught me that worship was a lifestyle, and that God could speak in any way He chooses, through the Bible, books, hymns, music, creation, the pasture, crocuses. I often thought of Mom, think of her still, as a strong oak tree, similar to the tree in Psalm 1, planted by streams with roots down deep. Her delight is in the law of the Lord, and on His delight she meditates day and night. She's like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, and its leaf does not wither. Whatever she does prospers. Despite the many moves and changes in her life, she remains steadfast, faithful, and devoted to the God she loved and served. She knew that earth would not be her final resting place. Dad, you and Mom had an amazing love story. A Malaysian city boy and a German farm girl, two cultures, two beautiful colors of skin, with the odds against you and the racial tensions of the 50s, yet a shared and strong faith in the God you served. Do you know what Mom would say about you? She said you lit up a room whenever you entered it. We observed her lifelong commitment to her vows taken on your wedding day from Ruth. Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Your people did become her people. How she loved your family. Rodney and Virginia, we're so happy that you're here representing the Malaysian and Singaporean family. She adapted to the tradition of the Asian culture and experienced joy living in other cultures and learning other ways of doing things. She partnered with you and together ministered with you in different parts of the world. Dad, she loved you, honored you, and respected you. Mom's last visit to our home a year and a half ago was at Christmas when she and Dad spent some time with our family just 6 months before she died. I captured photos of Mom making cookies, playing the piano, playing Upwards with one of our boys. One of our parents' favorite games is to play Upwards together. Some of our best family memories that Christmas was of her playing ping pong in the basement. We played 2-on-2 with Mom on one side, Dad on the other with one of our sons. She showed a side of her during that game that we didn't see very often. She was competitive, playful, even feisty at times. After one play that earned her team points, she made a gang-like gesture that had our boys and us howling with laughter, and she had a smug smile on her face. You'll catch actually a glimpse of this ping pong game in a video later in the service. I still find it amusing that Mom, a time or two, questioned whether she had any significant impact, whether her life had made any significant impact. And I remember thinking, you're asking that question and you've impacted so many people, not to mention the generations of children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. The older I get, the more I recognize her powerful influence on me as a wife, mother, and follower of Christ. I find myself often sounding like my mom, saying things she would have said, and regularly saying, my mom used to say. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 became some verses I clung to during my college years and have held them tightly ever since. These were also some of my mom's favorite verses. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. The past year has been filled with mixed emotions, and today I continue to hold mixed emotions. In my hand, sorrow and celebration, sadness and joy, but ultimately a profound gratitude in my heart for a woman whose legacy I have the privilege of living out each day. While Mom lived her life of faith clinging to the old rugged cross, we know that today she has exchanged it for a crown.
I'm Richard, the youngest. I'm following up after my oldest sister. I'm also probably the most rule follower one, so mine's short. I'll talk about 3 words that came to mind as I started thinking about Mom. Adventurous, patient, and faithful. While visiting Malaysia about 20 years ago, Uncle Maniam told the story of Mom and Dad's arrival in Penang after their journey by ship from the United States. Initially, my grandmother was not going to go greet them because, you see, her son, the oldest son in a traditional Asian family, and also the oldest man in the house because his father had died, was not marrying a Tamil woman, but was marrying a horror of horrors, an American floozy like Marilyn Monroe. So my aunt and grandma cried about this news. But Uncle Maniam, who's a very diplomatic, wise, gracious man, eventually convinced Grandma to go and meet them at the port. They met, and from that moment of meeting, Mom was part of the family. So much so that over the years I remember Dad sometimes saying, I feel like she's more part of the family than I am. My aunts often repeated that they could not have asked for a better sister-in-law. Mom was adventurous, And not in the way, perhaps, that is popular now of the extreme sports and bungee jumping and those kinds of things, but this farm girl had the courage to follow God's call. Initially hearing that call to the Belgian Congo in Africa, but then hearing a change of direction. And as was mentioned earlier, marrying into another culture at a time when that was not an easy thing to do, or viewed positively by many. She made a vibrant life in the mission field, sometimes under conditions quite different than she would have had in the United States. We have pictures, I think there was one earlier, of her even a few years ago, still adventurous, getting on the horse to go for a ride, quick to jump into any activity. Mom was also patient. We all have known this. She was patient with various people, patient with circumstances, patient with us children, patient with Dad. But something struck me, and it came out in the learning story as well. Something struck me as I thought about Mom during this past year. I don't ever remember her being in a hurry. She was present. She had a grace of being present in the moment, whatever that moment was. Mom was faithful. First of all, she was faithful to God's call. She followed what she sensed as God's leading, even if it might have been uncomfortable or out of the ordinary. She was faithful in loving and supporting Dad. She faithfully loved and cared for her children and grandchildren. She was the lodestone of our family that we kept returning to. The home we were drawn to, regardless of where we lived. She was a model of flexible consistency, gentle industriousness, ready hospitality. I can't claim any real knowledge of who Marilyn Monroe was, what she was like, but I can attest that Mom was not her. And in no way fulfilled the fears of her then unknown in-laws. She was indeed an exemplar of adventurous, patient faithfulness.
Now, if you're able, let's stand and sing He Leadeth Me, number 128.
Oh,
second child, but really only by 10 minutes to Maureen, so she does like to claim the oldest spot. As she said, there's some things that you're going to hear repeated, especially as twins. There's some things that stood out to the same. And so I wanted to start off, first of all, by thanking you all for being here. It means so much to our family that you took time to be here to honor Mom. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 is one that has impacted both Maureen and me, and I've passed on to our daughter, Sarah. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. One of Mom's favorite verses that we knew she loved, and she lived by it. Mom lived her faith with her life with a deep trust in the Lord and a desire to follow him. And one of the things that stood out to me about her was that through her foundation of faith, she developed an open heart and an open mind. Those words, open, stood out to me. Starting in high school when she felt led to live a life of service and ministry in a world beyond her own, when she met Dad, who opened her world to his people and his country. They traveled and moved to new places. She was open to people of all walks of life and different cultures. She was always learning and growing and enjoyed reading. She often had a book in her hands. She was open to God's leading in her life as she trusted him to direct her paths. As you've heard her love for music, many of you know that she loved music, and throughout my life I saw her use her gift of music by playing the piano in churches in many places around the country, the world. Listening to music, especially the organ, spoke deeply to her. It was as if she was getting a taste of heaven. I'm grateful she opened the world of music to us and for the opportunities she gave us to take piano lessons. Sitting down to play the piano now brings me both joy and comfort as I think of Mom and miss her. She was also a very good seamstress and was patient. I think that's a word you've heard a number of times. And spending time with Maureen and me as she taught us to sew. I was often amazed at how resourceful she was and very creative in sewing a quilt, a dress, a jacket, or a coat. Probably the two words that stand out the most to me when I think of Mom, and you've heard this before, is service and sacrifice. After she met and married Dad, I have often thought of her courage and deep faith that led her to leave her country, her home, her family, and go to an unknown country, unknown in-laws, and an unknown family. I am so grateful for the rich blessing of the family she married into and who accepted her with love. Growing up, we saw Mom serve where there were needs. At times, those were in the church, and other times, those were as a nurse, caring for those with special needs in different areas. She served our family by tending to our needs ahead of hers, being adaptable, flexible, maybe too accommodating at times. In our home, Mom provided a sense of calm, steadiness, order, and predictability, which became even more of an example when I became a mom. She had a strong but gentle spirit and tended to listen much more than give advice. But the one piece of advice that she did give me was before I was married, and she said these words that seemed so simple at the time. She said, let Jeff be Jeff, and let God be God. And after I got married, and years into being married, I realized how much wisdom there was in those words. Mom had a positive attitude in everything she did, even in the last year and a half of her life, as her health she had health challenges, but she rarely complained. Last Sunday, my husband spoke at a church about Psalm 90. Jeff said that one thing is constant for every person in this life, and that one constant is change. This was very true for Mom. I thought of Mom when he read the first verse of Psalm 90. Lord, you have been our dwelling place throughout all generations. Mom lived in many different homes, but God was her dwelling place. She modeled spending time with God every morning, having her devotions. He was her dwelling place in the midst of many changes, which involved new beginnings, challenges, goodbyes, loss, joy, and sorrow. One particular way I now understand more is when she modeled this when Maureen and I went to boarding school in Singapore at 10 years old. God was her dwelling place in the midst of the sadness of 2 of her children being gone. She trusted that He was good and that He would be faithful to her children as He had been faithful to her. Last May, I was with Mom in Oregon soon after she had been released from the hospital. And I was sitting in the car with her as we were waiting. And my brother had gone inside to take care of something. And I said, "Mom, are you concerned about your health?" And she said, "No. I figure if there is any problem, goodbye." And I thought, wow, what it told me is this earth was not her home. She held loosely to the things of this life. Mom set an example to us in the way she lived and in the way she died. I have wondered why Mom was the first one of the 5 siblings to go to heaven. They all have lived long, productive lives. Why did Mom go first? I guess I have found some comfort in remembering that Mom was an adventurer, a traveler, open to new places, the one that lived in other lands, and now she's leading the way to another country. Mom is face to face with the God who had been her dwelling place throughout her life.
I'd like to reflect on 3 aspects of who Mom is as a way of celebrating her life. First of all, my mom had an active mind. She loved to learn and she was curious, and books were a source of sustenance for this active mind. From a young age, I learned that books were important, and growing up, money was tight, and she was the keeper of the house purse strings. But I remember realizing as a child that if you asked for a book, Mom found a way to come up with money for it. And this was reflected throughout her life. And you know, every year she would get the reading list from Young Methodist Women, the National Young Methodist Women, and she would read through that list. And if you read a certain number of books on the list, you hit a benchmark and you got a pin or something. And she would be focused not only on getting the books read, but keeping track of how many she read so that she could hit that benchmark. Her active mind was also reflected in her love of word games like Scrabble and Upwards. And I enjoyed playing with her as long as I had no expectation of winning. And I also enjoyed watching the subtle competitiveness between Mom and Dad as they parried on the game board. And that relates to a second aspect of Mom that I hold dear. She had this quality to her, my sister Lorraine used this word feisty, and she had this quality to her that was really subtle, and it didn't show up in sort of every day, but now and then you saw it there. Like the time Mom and Dad came to visit us when we were living in Colorado, and I asked them if they'd like to go snow skiing. And Mom right away said, "Yeah, let's do it." And so I'm not sure that my dad was so keen on the idea, but he was swept up in the adventure. So Lisa and I took them to the bunny slope and gave them some preliminary instructions. And then we got these 2 retirees on the ski lift and went on up the little bunny slope. And as we got off, you know, Mom and Lisa kind of went off to the side, and I was trying to help my dad, who fell several times within spitting distance of the lift. And then declared he was done. And with skis off, he began to march down money slope. So I carried his skis. Meanwhile, Mom is just focused on making her wedge with her skis and made her way down. And she had that feistiness to her. And then at the bottom, out of her kindness and perhaps out of concern for bruising her husband's ego, she said we should call it a day. And that was that. That feistiness was evident also, in her 80th year when we were out at the farm, with her climbing up. We had a couple of horses that we were having a chance to ride, and she wanted to get up on a horse. And we got her up and led her around the barnyard. And that feistiness came out once in a while in her parenting as well. Like the time when I was in 2nd grade and we were living in Malaysia, and I got into trouble for something, I don't remember what, but I ran into my room and locked the door. And to avoid the long arm of the law. And my brother's room was right next to mine. And between our rooms, running the length of the wall, was a closet. And above the closet, also running the whole length of the wall, was a storage area. And there was a door from my brother's room into that storage area, and then it went all the way through the end. There's a door into my room. And so you could climb up in there and get through from one room to another. So I'm barricaded in my bedroom, and pretty soon I hear my mom. I'm not sure why she was so in need of reaching me at that moment, but I hear my mom in my brother's room, and she is climbing up into that storage area to climb through to get to me, to come out of the door into my brother's, into my room. And so I waited till she was about halfway through, and I unlocked my door, and I took off out of the house, and I hid down the block to give her some time to cool off. As you heard, and as you know, my mom was also a person of deep faith that shaped her character in the ways she patterned her life. And there are so many ways that was evident, but I'll tell just one little story. I was in high school. We were living in Huron, South Dakota. And for some reason, I had gone into their bedroom and was sitting she was in her bedroom, and we sat on the bed next to each other, and she showed me, she was working on the family budget, and it was written out in her handwriting on the back of an envelope, because as an uncle, she saved every scrap of paper. And so the family budget was written out, and things were tight in those days, and so it was important to watch every penny. And she was showing me the monthly budget, and the very first thing at the top of the list was the tithe. And that in itself doesn't constitute the fullness of the Christian life. But if you add that to those kinds of decisions made day in and day out, week after week, and month after month, they add up to a Christian life well lived. And that was my problem.
Our next number is 133, Leaning on the Everlasting Arms. Stand here.
exemplified the word selfless through the way that she loved and cared for others her entire life. She was an excellent demonstration of faith, courage, and love that all of us can follow for the rest of our lives.
What a life well lived. Such a servant in so many ways throughout her time with her grandkids and caring for Grandpa. Also for me personally, anytime I hear a hymn, I'm always reminded of Grandma, because I feel like that's where I kind of learned hymns, that, you know, through her and my mom. And anytime she was at our house, she was always playing hymns from memory and just out of pure joyful worship.
One of the phrases I remember Grandma using was, "We'll cross that bridge when we come to it." And I think it shows a lot of toughness if you can see something that's coming tomorrow and not let it affect the way that you're living today. And that's something I always really admired about Grandma.
We will always remember Grandma for being
Bold.
Selfless.
Influential.
Fearless.
Faithful.
Grounded.
tender,
Patient.
Loving. Gracious.
Caring.
Compassionate.
Brave. Gentle.
Steady.
Joyful. I remember Grandma always having a smile on her face, even the last few weeks of her life.
One word I would use to describe Grandma is wholesome.
And the word I would use to describe Grandma and the way she lived her life was just fully surrendered to God's will.
And Palmer, she was very grateful to have met her great grandmother. And we're very grateful for the legacy that she left.
One of my favorite memories with Grandma was this past Christmas when her and Grandpa were able to come visit us in Illinois, and we went down one day and started playing some ping pong, and Grandma decided to jump in, and it was the first time I'd ever played ping pong with her, and it was just so much fun, and everyone had a smile on their face. It was a blast, and I'm definitely fortunate to have that memory with her.
One of my favorite things was when I had the opportunity to travel around the world and go to Malaysia and Singapore and Australia, and I was able to meet some extended family, and they told me stories about Grandma. And time after time I would just hear about her bravery, hear about how she took this huge risk as a little farm girl in North Dakota and fell in love with a man from Malaysia and moved to Malaysia and lived life there and just fully embraced the culture. And I just loved hearing those stories. I just was so proud that that is where I came from and that that's the legacy that she has given us.
I'm sure if I wanted to do that.
What's the score, right?
2-2.
2-2.
I'd like to invite you to turn in your bulletins to join in the prayer celebrating Marian and Matthias. Please join me. God of all creation, we offer you grateful praise for the gift of life. Today, we especially thank you for the 85 years of life you gave to Mary. Through her life as a nurse, you brought healing to many. Through her hands, your creative love touched our lives. Through her music, you have heard the choir of saints singing your praises. Her dedication, loving service, and selflessness have been an example to us all. We give you thanks, Lord, for birthing and raising us, for the values and faith she helped form in us, for her daily prayers, her love of learning, and for her compassion for others around the world. We give you thanks, O Lord.
cared for me through the years, for a partnership with me in ministry over the years, both in the States and abroad, for her journey with me in the multicultural marriage, and for her companionship, which grew more endearing as the years went by.
We give you thanks, O Lord. Strength and dignity were her clothes. She opened her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness was on her tongue. She looked well to the ways of her household, and did not eat the bread of idleness. Her children and grandchildren rise up and call her blessed. Her husband, too, he praises her. Through all the years of her life, surely your goodness and mercy followed her. O God, keep her in your grace, for even in death, her life gives you grace. Amen.
Our final hymn is 140, Great is Thy Faithfulness. I would like to sing the first verse. Please join in at the refrain and with the rest of the number. Thou
reception here immediately after this service. And then any who want to are invited to join us at the Rural Seminary southwest of Mandan, where we will have just a brief time of putting Mom's ashes into the ground at the cemetery there. Now prepare yourself in body and spirit to receive the benediction. May the God of love, may the Christ of the resurrection, may the Spirit who leads us fill you now and always. Go in peace to love and serve the Lord.